I wish I could say that I'm surprised, but I'm not. Joe Rogan today publicly came out and said that he's exclusively gonna switch over the Joe Rogan experience to Spotify. And so we don't know the full details. We just briefly know what Joe said in his video and what Spotify said. But what the details state right now is this. Joe will continue to be on YouTube and continue to syndicate his podcast until September. And then from September, it'll go on to Spotify. And then at the end of 2020, it'll exclusively be on Spotify. Now, a lot of you initially said, hey, what about the video? Well, Spotify earlier this year said that they're planning to have video options. I think one of their plays is they see right now that iTunes and Google are slowly losing their grasp on podcasters, and same as YouTube. And so you will be able to watch for free, mind you, this is all for free, Joe Rogan experience on Spotify. So let's read this from The Verge, word for word. Joe Rogan, comedian and host of the most popular podcast in the world. And when they say most popular, roughly they're stating about anywhere between 100 to even up to 200 million downloads a month. So he's like one of the most listened to human beings on the planet. And so it states the show will become available on Spotify globally starting on September 1st. It'll become exclusive sometimes after this point. Listeners won't have to pay access to the episodes, but they will have to become Spotify users. Spotify said in the press release that Rogan retains creative control over his show. It didn't disclose how much is spent on the deal. Of course not. But like if you do some math right now, Joe Rogan, based on sponsorships from companies, based on the ad revenue from YouTube, people have done the math, anywhere between $30 to $50 million a year. And so the multiple at least has to be a 4 or 5x multiple on that. And so I think the deal starts at $200 million. I don't see the deal being below $200 million. Let's continue. So Joe Rogan's YouTube channel will remain live, but it won't contain full episodes. There might be clips or some supplementary content here and there, but the full episodes with the full content will only be available on Spotify. Now, what I want to talk about, though, is times are changing. And if you guys have been listening to me and following me, I've been stating this for a while. I think we are seeing the demise of YouTube. And it's not a shocker. So YouTube for the last couple of years have been going after their independent content creators and more or less becoming cable TV. And what I mean by cable TV, if you look at their primary advertisers right now, they're mainstream media. CNBC, Fox, MSNBC, all the big guys, they're probably 80 to 90% of the payroll for YouTube ad networks. YouTube's president Susan, their COO, all these C-level executives have come out publicly. I want to repeat this again, have come out publicly and stated that they don't really care about independent content creators. And yes, they have a search algorithm that should not be biased, but they have stated they manipulate the algorithm so it favors their advertisers. And specifically lately, with what's been happening since Trump was voted into office, and what's been happening with COVID, with the World Health Organization. If you're an independent creator and you say keywords like vaccine or the WHO, or you say something about China, or you say something about alternative ideas, alternative health, like for example, vitamin C, you are censored, you are demonetized. So this is a big fuck you to the independent content creators that have made YouTube at the beginning. Without the independent content creators, YouTube would not exist. And so what we're seeing in front of us today is YouTube slowly bleeding out and becoming irrelevant. And eventually YouTube will become the very thing it set out to destroy. It will become a mainstream media platform that only the select few who live in their bubble world will watch. while other platforms will rise that offer more freedom, that offer better monetization. Because you got to think about this. Before like the ad apocalypse in YouTube, before a lot of this censorship happening on YouTube, like if you had a channel of 200 or even up to 400,000 subscribers and your CPMs were roughly around 15 to 20 CPM, you can make a good buck. You're lucky these days to get a CPM of high as 10, depending on your niche. Like you're lucky. And if you calculate the CPM and you calculate how many views you need to have versus the subscribers you're going to have, you might as well, that's like below minimum wage, to be honest with you. It's not even worth it. And so basically what content creators are doing right now, this is why you see a mass exodus. You have people trying to do their own version of Patreon. You have people trying to figure out different business models around YouTube. But the name of the game is content creators are leaving. And I think Joe Rogan has opened up Pandora's box for other content creators to start asking themselves serious questions. Is YouTube really the platform that I should be spending my time on? Because right now, I have to be careful for the words I use, even myself. Words that are associated with COVID, they demonetize me. Mind you, I make like $2 a fucking video. It's nothing for me. Thank God I don't have to rely on YouTube whatsoever. But my God, for the content creators that YouTube is their lifeblood, that if something goes wrong or the fact that they can't monetize their video, they don't have bread on the table or a roof over their head, that's crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy. And so I think we're at the beginning stages of new platforms arising. I think this is going to be, we're going to look back in history as the same thing that we look back how Blockbuster killed itself. And it killed itself by not doing anything. Like if you study the history of Blockbuster, I think Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix. And remember, people forget this. Netflix originally wasn't digital. It was physical, mailing option, right? So people think Netflix just came out of the blue, this digital utopia. No. It had its evolutionary process. Mind you though, Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $2 million, and it didn't do it. And so it wasn't Blockbuster trying to aggressively do things differently. It wasn't Blockbuster trying to reinvent things. They just didn't evolve. And we're seeing exactly the same thing today with YouTube. We are seeing YouTube pandering towards its advertisers, Fox and CNBC and all these guys. And they're not reinventing anymore. This is why TikTok is taking away users from them. This is why Spotify sees opportunity for video base coming soon in September. This is why you see so-called, or let's call them semi-blockchain platforms popping up. You have a couple of them. You have Minds.com, you have Library, you have BitChute, you have all these different forms of blockchain platforms. Everyone's trying their own thing. It's a great experiment. But you see this kind of Cambrian explosion today of different platforms arising and different platforms trying to chip away at YouTube. And what YouTube has to do is pretty much continue what it's doing. Do nothing. It's not helping its independent content creators. It's not trying to reinvent the technology. The technology has been the same for years. It's nothing new. They have nothing new. In fact, they're usually the ones who are the last to ship. Like if you look at the craze of live streaming, Instagram really killed it. Well, in fact, before Instagram, it was Snapchat, then Instagram, then TikTok is killing it. YouTube, maybe less than a year ago, came out with its live feature, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. To this date, I've used it maybe 4 times. It's a horrible experience. So I think they're lived out their use case. And what we're seeing right now is a work of art. Like I'm just sitting back and watching YouTube destroy itself as, the snake eating its own tail. And so my suggestion for you guys, if you are a content creator, I think it's time for you to figure out different ways to monetize your work. I'm not the big fan of Patreon. I'm a bigger fan of what Sam Harris is doing, where you create your own platform. It can just be a WordPress website and you talk with your users directly. You really don't need Patreon, to be honest. And even better ways to do it. Like if you're using YouTube, forget about monetization for ads for now. Use YouTube as a lead generation for now. You know, use it as to sell a product to something else, whether it's an e-commerce product or a digital product. You need to start thinking about ways where you control the racetrack. You shouldn't be beholden to a platform for your income. You shouldn't be beholden to a platform for your speech. And you shouldn't be beholden to a platform for how it makes you think. And so it's time for you to reevaluate if you're a content creator of different forms of monetization. And so I just want to quickly leave you with today's video about Joe Rogan and Spotify. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great news. All the best to Joe. I think, fuck, man, this is amazing. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.